What's up, guys? Mr. Schwahoozy here. I'm just gonna make a quick video, real quick. Uh, the hockey playoffs are starting in about an hour, 58 minutes to be exact. And I meant to make a video about who I think, what I think will happen in the first round of the playoffs, the qualifying round, that is. But I forgot, so I'm doing kind of a candid, just have my phone in my hand to do this video, and I thought I'd go through the list of the best of 3 series and the top 4 from each conference. So I have the list here. I don't know how well you can see that. It's on my computer. So I'll go through them one by one, give my thoughts. My favorite team is not in this. My favorite team is Ottawa. The Ottawa Senators are not in this. So I really don't have a stake in either, in any series really. So this is just my opinion as a hockey fan. So let's get to it. Okay, so first, I think I'll start off in the West, because that's really the division I care the least about. It's really the ones I have the least preference about. Although I do have my favorites, and I do have my opinions, I don't really have really strong opinions. This is probably the division I care least about in these playoffs, just because I live on the East. My fans, my favorite teams in the East, the rivals are in the East. I follow the East more, that sort of thing. So I pay attention to the East the most throughout the season. So yeah, let's get to it. The first the first series, I guess, is the Calgary Flames versus the Winnipeg Jets. Personally, I think this could be really close. Like a lot of these, you're going to hear me say this a lot. I think this could be really close. But I think it also could be a stomp in one team's favor. And the team is called Connor Hellebuck. I think Winnipeg is going to win this series. Just off of him. From what I've heard, he has had an amazing year. He has pretty much brought his team into the qualifying round. And I just think that they have a younger team, a more experienced team overall. So I just think that with the goalie, the more experience, and kind of the younger, faster team, I think Winnipeg got this. I think they got this. Okay. Okay. I needed a second to think about this next one because this is honestly one of the two toughest ones in this conference. It's the Edmonton Oilers versus the Chicago Blackhawks. I don't really know about this one personally because um, Chicago was really good 3 years ago when they won 3 cups in 6 years, I think, 3 cups in 5 years, that sort of thing. And I mean, they've been kind of on a downward trend since then, ever since they got swept by the Predators in 2017, I think it was. They've been kind of on a downward slope. So seeing them here, it's kind of it kind of makes me think that the big guns, Kane and Taves, kind of got some juice left in them as players. But they fired their coach this year or last year, I can't remember. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But on the other hand, you got Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And really, that's the only two that matter for the Edmonton Oilers. Their goalies are pretty solid. I only know Mike Smith. I can't remember the other guy's name off the top of my head. I could probably look it up. Give me a second. Right, yes. Mikko Koskinen. I believe he's going to get the start for Edmonton because him and Mike Smith kind of split the Calgary game that they played, the exhibition game that they played against Calgary. So I think he'll start. Koskinen will start just because think he's the better one. So I think, and he played really solid against him. I don't think he let in any goals. So I think with Draisaitl and McDavid, and with Koskinen backing them up at the end, they got speed, they got talent. I think they'll win. Um, I didn't say for the last series, but I think it'll be 3-1 Winnipeg over Calgary for the last one. Sorry about that. For this one, I think, let me look at this thing one more time. I think it'll be 3-1 for Edmonton as well. I think they can go in with a nearly clean victory. And yeah, I think Edmonton got that. So let's move on to the next one. All right. Next up on the list is maybe the toughest in the entire playoff. I'm just looking at them again. Put it in. I don't know how well you guys can see this. But it may be the toughest one, apart from one in the East. Mostly because I don't care about Vancouver or Minnesota. Like these are probably the two teams I care about the least in the West, because I haven't been following them any. Like I haven't followed them since maybe ever. Yeah, I think the last time I followed Minnesota was when their tour bus burned down in like 20, I want to say like 2012, something like that. And last time I followed Vancouver was in, I think, 2010 or 2011 when they went to the finals against Boston. So it's been almost 10 years, maybe more than 10 years, since I've cheered for either of these two teams or even just paid attention to them. But from the little I do know, I think that Vancouver's got this, because I do know they have a few young guys. I think Elias Pettersson's pretty good. So I just think that Vancouver wins. I think the series could be really interesting, but it could also be very, very boring. So I think I'm going to go with Vancouver in. Let's go five games. Yeah, let's go 5 games. 3-2 Vancouver over Minnesota. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, this next series really is a no-brainer for me. It's the Nashville Predators versus the Arizona Coyotes, formerly known as the Phoenix Coyotes, which I hated that they changed, but that's okay. This is kind of a no-brainer for me. I think it'll be clean sweep. I think Nashville will win. They have more experience. They're good. They were in 6th place, whereas Arizona wasn't even supposed to make the playoffs. So, kind of shows you how the teams were. I don't pay attention to either of these teams, or really many teams in the West, apart from some of the Canadian teams. I think maybe Calgary and Winnipeg, maybe Edmonton. Not sure, but definitely not the last two series I've looked at. Which is why I decided to do the West first, because I care the least. But yeah, I think that Nashville, they have experience. They've got Pecorine is a solid goalie. If he shows up, he'll be really good. But I think Nashville can win 3-0. Worst, it's 3-2. But I think Nashville's winning this 100%. Yeah, so I think Nashville's winning this. So I should go to the top 4 in the West and see how they play out. Now, I think I made a small post about this earlier on another site, and I said that the top 4 will stack up St. Louis, Vegas, Colorado, Dallas. So yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. Fingers crossed I'm right, but Who knows? Okay, on to the East. Okay, I switched sides to my room, and I'm now on another side because we're doing the East. And this one I have some opinions about. So we'll go kind of from the bottom up because the last two I want to talk about are kind of the longest ones. So yeah, so let's start with the first one, which is the Carolina Hurricanes versus the New York Rangers. I think this one may be the easiest one to predict out of the East, because well, it's either the easiest or the hardest, because both teams are really good. Carolina has been really good the last 2 years, and they've been a fun team to watch. I don't know any of their players off the top of my head, but I just know they've been really fun to watch because I've watched a couple of their games and they've been really good. And New York was going on a push at the end of the season, but of course, the end of the season was 5 months ago, right? April, May, June, July, yeah, almost 5 months ago since the season ended. So obviously there's been a little bit of a downturn since. So I think overall, I think, oh boy, this is tough. I think, I think New York's got it. I think Panarin, Zibanejad, and Lundqvist. I think Lundqvist especially is desperate for a cup. He's getting into his late years. He may only have a few seasons left. He's really scraping the bottom of the bucket when it comes to what he can do. So I think he's desperate enough to get the cup, or at least get past the qualifying round. So, yeah, I think Rangers in 5. Yeah, Rangers in 5. And I'm not even going to cut to the next one because honestly, I don't care about the New York Islanders and the Florida Panthers. This one is probably the series I'm going to pay attention to the least. I think I said that for the West, but it just I don't care about the Islanders, the Panthers. I'm gonna say the Islanders win in 4. I have no reasoning. It's just I don't know, young team. Florida hasn't been in the playoffs a lot. Looking at the rankings, New York, the Islanders were 7th, Florida was 10th. So it's like, I mean, both were decent, but New York was closest to making it. I think they were in the playoffs actually, because the top 8. So yeah, the Islanders in 4, 3-1. And for the next two, I need to take a break. Give me a second. All right, this next series is probably the one that is it's maybe the easiest one that I found in the East because of 2 factors. Technically 3, but definitely 2. Factor 1, Sidney Crosby. Factor 2, Evgeny Malkin. Factor 3, Carey Price. Of course, I'm talking about Pittsburg and Montreal, their series. I think that Pittsburg, who was really good, who's been really good for the last, I gotta say, like 10 years, since like 2008, 2009, I think they made it to the finals twice against Detroit, back-to-back years. And just a few years ago, they won the Cup twice in a row. And I mean, they've been on a tear for the last 10 or so years. So I think Pittsburgh's got this. Also, I think the reason, so I think I'm going to give Pittsburgh the win 3-1 because I think Carey Price can definitely win a game for Montreal. However, I don't think he can win 3. You have to win 3 games. And just from what I've seen and from what I've heard from Montreal fans and in the games that I've seen, he's not the greatest goalie right now. He's not his best self. He's not the Carey Price of however many years ago where he was unstoppable and he was the whole reason that Canada won the gold medal. I think it was back in 2014. I want to say. So yeah, for those reasons, because Carey Price can win you a game, but he can be really off. I just don't think that Montreal is ready for the onslaught that Pittsburgh is going to have. Because not only do they have Malkin and Crosby, but they also have a strong goalie in Matt Murray, who has won 2 cups. So he has the experience. I mean, they all have the experience. They've all won multiple cups. So yeah, I think Pittsburgh wins this one hands down. If they lose it, it'll probably be because of Carey Price stands on his head and the defense is strong. Or Shea Weber's slap shots will just rip through everyone and everyone will, have to go to the hospital. It's like, oh no, Pittsburgh can't play anymore. But I think Pittsburgh has got this 3-1. All right, let's take a quick breather and we'll go to maybe my toughest one to decide, the final one. Okay, so I've known about this series for, I gotta say, about a few months now. It was introduced to the world, but I've only been really thinking about it the last few days. I gotta say, I still don't really think I have an idea of who's going to win. I have sort of an idea, and that's the one I'm rolling with. But Columbus and Toronto, because Toronto has immense pressure on their heads to get it done this year. They failed the last 2, 3, 4 years with the stacked team that they have with Anderson and Mana and Matthews and Tavares, and I think Nylander's still on the team, and just Kasperi Kapanen and all of them. And they're such a stacked team, but they just can't get it done in games. Like, their defense is so bad from what I've seen and from what I've heard from Maple Leafs fans. Just they don't have anything on the back end except for Freddie Anderson and maybe Cody Ceci, who was actually in my team, and he was really bad. And he's not great in Toronto. And it's just the defense that's the big weakness. And I think that with Columbus, they're such a quick team, and they seem so structured in the exhibition game that I saw them play against Boston. And of course, Boston wasn't trying their hardest, but nonetheless, Columbus won against one of the best teams in the league this year. And they looked so ready to play, even though their coach John Tortorella said they may not be. They seemed ready enough to play at least an exhibition game and do decently well. So, and I think that if Columbus comes out with the same intensity they did last year against Tampa Bay, I think they got it. Yeah. So, but with all that, I think Toronto wins this series 3-1. Yeah, I think 3-1. I think Columbus will definitely steal a game, but I think Toronto wins. I won't be surprised at all if Columbus wins, because that's just the typical Toronto and I think the typical Columbus thing to do now. So yeah, I think Columbus loses against Toronto. I think Toronto wins this series 3-1. Okay. Now for the top 4. This one was actually pretty easy to decide. I had it being Boston in first place, so they'd be going up against Toronto again. Tampa, Washington, and Philly. I had some people putting Philly above almost everyone, and I think they could do really well. They won against Pittsburgh, and that seemed like a pretty intense game. But I think Boston and Tampa are just two very strong teams. They've always been strong, but I think Tampa will want some payback against Columbus for sure. Boston's gonna want to win against Toronto for sure. So I think whatever happens in the first qualifier with Toronto and Columbus, and whatever happens in the top four, I think whoever ends up in that top spot will be interesting. But yeah, I think that. Now, I actually realized I've been recording this for over 20 minutes, over 21 minutes actually, which means that by the time this is uploaded onto YouTube, the qualifying round has probably already started. So, yeah, have fun.